All right, let's dive into a really fascinating story. Picture this. You've been married for 24 years. You've built a life and a fortune. We're talking $10 million in assets. But then the unthinkable happens. Both you and your spouse become permanently unable to work, ever again. This isn't just a thought experiment, it's the real-life puzzle at the center of the Jamison case, where a lifetime of success suddenly crashes into a huge question about what's fair when the future is completely uncertain.
So this really is the core of the problem, right? You've got this massive nest egg that you built together, but now the income stream is completely cut off for both of you. So how on earth does a court even begin to decide what's a fair split? It's a really high-stakes dilemma, and there are no easy answers here.
So let's look at their journey together. The Jamisons were a team for a long, long time. They started living together way back in '92, built a home, built a fortune, but look at that date in the middle, 2008. That's when the husband's health started going downhill. It was a huge turning point, one that really set the stage for everything that happened later when they finally separated in 2016, after almost a quarter century as a couple. Now you'd probably think, okay, both of them can't work, so they're in the same boat financially. But this is where the story takes a really sharp turn. Because even though their work situations were identical, their financial futures couldn't have been more different. And this one single fact just changes the entire game.
Okay, let's look at the actual numbers, because this is where things get really dramatic. On one side, we've got the wife's future, and on the other, the husband's. So get this. The wife's future was completely secure, thanks to an income protection policy, which, by the way, was paid for with their shared marital money. She was set to receive over 340,000 Australian dollars every single year, tax-free, until she turns 65. I mean, that's a guaranteed multi-million-dollar safety net for the rest of her life. And the husband? His future annual income was a big fat zero. Nada. His own insurance policy had stopped paying out. So while she had this golden parachute, he was looking at a complete financial free fall. And you can bet this massive difference became the absolute core of their legal battle.
But wait, the story gets even crazier. As the court case gets going, the husband's whole financial story just starts to, well, it falls apart. This wasn't just about their future incomes anymore. It turned into a full-on hunt for huge sums of money that seemed to have just vanished into thin air. So first up, there's this $500,000 crypto investment. The husband claims he borrowed money from a friend, threw it all into crypto, and poof, lost every last penny. And when the court asked for proof, he had absolutely nothing. No bank records, no transaction history, nothing. He just said his memory of the whole thing was, and I quote, blurry. Then you've got these mysterious checks. The husband wrote himself checks from their joint accounts totaling almost $600,000. But here's the weird part. He didn't deposit them for nearly a full year. So when the judge asked him, where was this $500,000 plus in cash for 12 months, his answer was just unbelievable. He said, I can't remember. Okay, and this is where it really turns into a detective story. The wife's lawyers start digging. They issue subpoenas and boom, they find a secret storage unit rented under a fake name. But the real kicker? The access logs for that unit showed the husband visited on the exact same days that he finally deposited those mystery checks. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. The pieces were definitely starting to fit together. The judge saw right through all of it. Justice Curran's statement was just absolutely brutal for the husband's case. When a judge looks at you and says your testimony is not credible, it's game over. You've totally lost the right to be believed about anything. It was a complete collapse of his integrity in that courtroom. So let's recap. We have a husband who's been caught, it seems, lying and hiding over $1 million. And we have a wife with a totally secure, multi-million-dollar future. You'd think the verdict would be a complete slam dunk for the wife, right? Well, what the court decided next is what makes this case so shocking to so many people. In what was a truly stunning twist, the judge awarded 53% of the $10 million asset pool to the husband. Yes, you heard that right. The very man who was just called not credible by the court walked away with the majority of the money. And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It just feels wrong. It goes against our gut feeling of fairness. How could the person who behaved so badly end up with a bigger piece of the pie? To get our heads around this, we have to push past that gut reaction and look at the cold, hard logic that the law actually uses. See, the judge didn't just pick a number out of thin air. In Australia, the law follows a very strict four-step process.
First, they identify every single asset, and yes, that includes the missing money they assumed the husband still had. Second, they look at what each person contributed over the years. Third, and this is key, they evaluate what each person will need in the future, and only then do they make a final ruling that the law considers just and equitable.
So here's how the judge did the math. He started at a 50-50 split because, it was a 24-year partnership. Then he made a tiny adjustment, just 1.5% in the husband's favor because he brought more money into the marriage way back at the start. But here is the crucial move. He added another 1.5% for the husband based on future needs. Why? Simply because the wife's huge, guaranteed income stream meant the husband was, financially, in a much, much weaker position moving forward. And that's how you get to a 53-47 split.
So okay, beyond all the courtroom drama, what can we actually learn from all this? This case is so much more than just a story about a rich couple. It's packed with powerful lessons about money, about honesty, and about how the law's idea of fairness can be very different from our own.
Here are 5 big takeaways. First, in a long marriage, what you started with barely matters compared to what you built together. Second, that insurance policy you're both paying for, its future payout could end up being the single most important asset in a divorce. Third, lying in court is just a disaster. You lose all credibility. Fourth, the law cares about who is more vulnerable right now, not who used to be the main breadwinner. And finally, number 5, thinking you can hide $1 million in today's world is just a fantasy. There's always a digital trail.
And that really leaves us with this one big question to chew on. The Jamison case forces us to face a tough reality. The judge followed the letter of the law to reach an outcome that is technically just and equitable. But does it feel right to us on a gut level? It's that classic conflict between the cold logic of the law and our own emotional sense of justice. And it's what makes these stories so endlessly complicated and important to understand.